Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Trivedi, and in this segment today we are going to discuss about a very important right, that is right to protest. This topic is important from the perspective of prelims and also from the perspective of GS mains papers. Shall we begin? Let's have a look on the topics that we are going to discuss. These are the topics. Of course, we will start with the news. And the news is that the Supreme Court is saying that it is okay to protest when the matter is sub judice. That means it is okay for an aggrieved party or an aggrieved group of persons to show their expression through protest, but it should not prove any kind of inconvenience to the general populace. So I know that many of you might have been following the news throughout, since the farmers' protests have come to the streets since so many days. And now the farmers, because as they have said that they are not allowed to protest in the specified area that is suitable for protesting, that is why they had to take to the streets. That is causing the roads to be blocked, and that is the entire issue, because commuters are having a lot of issue with this. Now there is a petition that has been filed by resident Monica Agrawal, who has said in her petition that commuters are having issues because of the protests that are going on and the protesters are blocking the streets. And the Supreme Court has said that ultimately some solution to this has to be found, because this can't go on and on and on, because it is causing an issue to everybody. Some people might have health emergency, they have to reach to the hospital. Some people might have to reach to office on time, and that might be causing them a lot of inconvenience. So that is the issue. So the problem is that it's okay, protest, but do not cause any inconvenience. And if you remember, that was a similar thing said by the Supreme Court when Delhi protests were going on 2 years back for the against the CAA, right? So we are not against the right to protest even when legal challenge is pending, because this challenge is sub judice right now. And of course, as a democratic nation, we are free to show our dissent through protests, peaceful protests. But roads can't be blocked like this. This has been said by Justice S.K. Kaul, who was heading a 2-judge bench. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, one more thing. Please remember the names of the judges, because it could be asked. Anything is important. Now, the thing is that UPSC is not letting a trend to be set. So, it's not a lot important, but it could be important for the state PCS. So, remember the facts. Okay, let's move forward and talk about the scenario. Farm bills, farm laws, farm act. Everything, that means the Farm Act, it is being protested against by the farmers because they're not happy with the clauses of the act, and also because there is not a proper channel of communication between the center and the farmers. So they are showing their expression and dissent through protest. Okay, but they are causing an issue to the general populace. Why? Because they have blocked. This we have discussed. But they have also said that because we are not being led to protest in an area which is designated for protests itself, because the police is not letting them sit there. That is why they have to do such things. Okay, so till when? Because we need to find a solution to this, and the matter is already pending in the court. Let's move forward and talk about protests in our country. Gandhiji have taught the generations before us and generations to come that peacefully protesting about anything is very healthy for a democracy, very healthy to enlighten the minds of the people. So this is a land of showing dissent. This is how our democracy came into being. So, of course, but we have to understand it from the constitutional point of view as well. Why? Because let me tell you one thing. If you are not happy with how your elected leaders are behaving in any manner, you are, of course, this is not a small country. We cannot have direct democracy. We have indirect democracy. We cannot have tools such as recall or referendum. So we have very few options such as protesting. Protesting is one of the options that is very easily available to any aggrieved party. So that is why it is important to express in a peaceful manner. Okay, so there are certain articles such as Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. Now again, remember the facts for your examination, because you never know what UPSC is going to ask. It's important to note down the facts, and don't write in a very lengthy manner. Write it in such a manner that you are able to understand. Okay, so Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A guarantees the freedom of speech and expression. Speech, And expression. Now, expression doesn't have to be only through facial expression, written. It can be through any means, but as long as it is peaceful. Okay, so I cannot take up arms against the government and say that yes, I am protesting, this is my freedom of expression. No, there are reasonable restrictions keeping in mind the welfare of the country, the integrity of the country. We will discuss about that as well. Just remember this. Okay, so Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause B assures citizens the right to assemble peaceably and without arms. It could be asked in your prelims that which article prohibits the citizens to bear arms for protest. This could be it. Okay, and again, Article 19 Clause 1 Subclause C assures right to form association or trade unions. Moving on. Now, there are certain reasonable restrictions. As you know, fundamental rights are also such rights that cannot be absolute. The freedom I have to spread my arms stops there, where my hands are actually irritating the nose of any person. So keep that in mind. And reasonable restrictions, however, like other fundamental rights, right to protest is also not absolute and also subject to reasonable restriction. What are these? Again, remember, because it could be asked in prelims, that these are the reasons that are mentioned in the Constitution as reasonable restrictions against this particular article. So it could be under Article 19.2 and 19.3, like in the interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of the state, friendly relation with foreign states. That means sovereignty should not be compromised, integrity should not be compromised, because before the interest of certain groups comes the interest of the country. Okay, again, the security of state and friendly relation with foreign states. I should not behave in any sort of manner which will cause an issue to any state, foreign state, with which India has good relation. I cannot protest, and I can peacefully, but not in a very blatant and abrupt and of course bold manner against any country, so that eventually it will lead to deterioration of relations. Keep this also in mind. Moving on. Now, violation of public order. Social order should be kept, and decency, morality, or in relation to contempt of court. Again, you might not remember this. Sometimes what happens, the brain takes only few information, and this could be something that escapes your mind. So contempt of court, defamation, or incitement of an offense. The grounds of restriction based on violation of public order can be reasonable only when there is evidence that protesters will incite lawless or disorderly acts, and that such acts are likely to occur. Moving forward. Now, what is the importance in having a law? The problem here is we should have a law that will designate a protest as proper and another which is improper. So it is very subjective, first of all. Secondly, what is the importance? First, public interest will have to be kept in mind, because ours is a democracy. Protests are going to erupt every now and then, because there are many groups which are not happy with certain bills, certain laws. So that is going to occur in a democracy, and that is very welcome. Peaceful protests are welcome. So public interest should be there. Now, there should be proper delineation of topics. What is public interest and what is not public interest? Again, curb on antisocial elements. It could happen that a peaceful protest is taking place. Certain fringe groups, just to actually hurt the environment and hurt the social fabric, they might resort to some kind of issue or some kind of activities that raises social issues in a very unhealthy manner. So that is also something, that 5 people are protesting peacefully, one comes, takes a sword into the hand and starts cutting people's heads off. It can't be that. So it's important to have a curb on the antisocial elements as well. Now, better judgment, because once we have a proper law about having proper settlement when it comes to protest, there will be better judgment on the part of the Supreme Court and different various courts and everything. Okay, constitutional balance. We must understand, again, ours is a democracy, and it's a democracy when we talk about freedom of expression and speech. So constitutional balance should be maintained. The interest of the groups should be balanced with the public welfare. So there can be a proper understanding of the constitutional responsibility of the legislature as well as social responsibility. Now, healthy democracy, as I have said, that dissent, I'm quoting the Supreme Court itself, dissent is a safety valve. So it's important for a healthy democracy. Now, there is no specific law right now. with respect to protests? Yes, of course, there are vague provisions, but not specific ones. But how to formulate such laws, that is another challenge, because if we formulate a law, that is very subjective in nature, and every person has the right to say his or her mind. Again, delineation of criteria is very hard because it's subjective, it's not something objective. Yes, 2 to 3 things are very important that no public welfare should be kept in mind, that because of a group, a larger populace doesn't have a problem, okay? Secondly, it should not have any ramification on the public wealth, okay? No harm to the public order. So those are reasonable restrictions, so it can be a guiding light, okay? Again, freedom of expression with restriction. Now, what kind of expression is that? When we have restrictions, again, understand from a point of view, as for answer writing practice, it's very important to have a balanced approach. So we need to have a balanced approach when we talk about freedom of expression and restriction. What is the restriction? Your absolute restriction, what I taught you about the restriction, that should be kept in mind in your answer writing. Again, understand the importance of balancing, okay? So right to protest, good, but protest peacefully, and again in a healthy manner, so that other people don't have an issue with that in their daily lives. All right, let's move forward and talk about the way forward. Dissent is a safety valve. It should be encouraged actually in a very healthy manner. Again, peaceful protest to be encouraged, and respect the sanctity of the matter sub judice. Protest should not go so, protest can go along, as the Supreme Court has itself said, but it should not undermine the capacity of the Supreme Court. If you have any matter in the Supreme Court, you should understand that the Supreme Court is the upholder of the Constitution. So it will take a step in the right direction when we talk about balancing the perspectives. Again, continuous communication between stakeholders is necessary. I'm talking about the center, the farmers, and every other stakeholder that is important in the Farm Acts. What can go along so that every channel is opened. Nobody is just sitting hand on hand, okay? Again, public interest is utmost important. That is also something that we should ponder upon, okay? So let's have a look on the main space question. Do write it, all right? So in the light of farmer protests, is it necessary to have a law guiding the right to protest? Comment in 250 words, okay? So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated, and thank you so much for watching.